We had a 0% of ever conceiving naturally. They just told us your only option is either IVF or a sperm donor. I just remember like that call was so refreshing because it felt like for the first time, a doctor was actually listening to like every detail of our story. She was like, we never lose hope, like, because we believe in a God of miracles.
I saw him take the picture and I was like, this guy, because I hate pictures. And so yeah, I was like looking at the camera and I was 16 and I was all like pissed off, and I had a red hoodie.
But it was our first picture together without even knowing of each other. You know, we never talked to each other until 7 months before we got married, right?
Yeah.
Can you guys see us okay and hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay. So, nothing. Welcome, guys. Thank you for sitting with us, for talking to us today. Maybe we should do a little bit of introductions, just to, I don't know who's gonna watch this, but just so people know who we are. So why don't you guys start? Briefly introduce yourselves. Yeah.
Okay. My name is Juan Pablo. I also go by JP, and I've been married to Cindy for this year. It'll be 10 years. Let's see. I'm 33 years old. I just turned 33. And yeah.
Yes. So I'm Cindy. Like he said, we've been married almost 10 years, which is crazy. And we're both originally from California, from Orange County, California. But we are currently living in Romania. We've been here for almost 5 years now. So half of our marriage was in California. Now the other half has been here in Romania. So 5 and 5. Oh, yeah. And yeah, I'm 30 years old. And we have one baby in heaven, our miracle baby in heaven. And yes, we are here in Romania because we are missionaries with the Catholic Church. And I don't know, we can elaborate more on that later, but yeah.
For sure. No, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let me just briefly introduce myself. My name is Cesar. Married to Amanda for 5 years this year. This is our 5th year. And what? We have 3 kids, 3 girls, under 4. So we have our hands full. And yeah, I'm 38, right? I stopped counting after 33. 33 was my favorite number. That's when I got married to. Yeah, it was
Your passion.
my passion, yes. But yeah.
Yeah. I'm Amanda, and I'm 34 years old. And I'm originally from New Jersey. And I moved here after we got married. And now I was a teacher, and now I'm a stay-at-home mom. And yeah.
She always tells me, I think I already told you guys, that she always tells me that she loves me more because she moved 3,000 miles away from me, where I just stay here. So I'm always like, okay, you have a point there, yes.
I'm sure that's like always used like in arguments. That's got to be a card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no way I can, there's no way I can
Right,
fight that. Yeah, yeah. It's true.
Like I left bagels, pizza, and my family.
I almost moved to Jersey with you. That's the truth.
Yeah, it wasn't off the table.
Yeah. Anyways, that's a topic for another video. But today we wanted to talk to both of you, and in particular with to Cindy, because you've been in mission 5 years, right? As you mentioned, and you also mentioned you have a baby in heaven. So there has been a journey that has led you to where you are today. You started a program less than a year ago, and why don't you share about that program? Because I think that, like I was telling you guys last time that we spoke, that a lot of people are going through the same things that you guys are going through, and they don't know where to go. they don't know where to find answers. Many times they don't even know the questions to ask. So can you tell us a little bit about your story? How did you um, find out about the program that you're studying?
Okay. Yes. So we got married in 2016, and right from the beginning, I mean, we knew we wanted to have children, and we never prevented pregnancy by any means, and we were just open. And after some time, maybe like a couple years had gone by, we were like, okay, maybe something's not right. Like, think we should have gotten pregnant by now. Um, so we started, looking for answers, going to a normal gynecologist, and eventually being referred to a fertility specialist, a reproductive endocrinologist. And at that point, like, they ran a bunch of tests on both of us, and they told me that everything was normal. There was no problems with me. Then when they went over JP's results, basically they told us, he was sterile, and we had a 0% of ever conceiving naturally. And at that appointment, they just told us your only option is either IVF or a sperm donor. And
Well, even a little bit before that, we had gone to like a doctor. Before they had even run any tests on me, she was already prepping Cindy for like, IVF, like think about it. Here's like pamphlets. And then I remember she looks at me and she's like, "Have you gotten tested though?" And I was like, "No." But because even in my mind, it wasn't even like a thing to think about. And it was really hard because in the beginning, obviously, like you see Cindy after we got married every year. It was like it's hard that every year that passes by, it's like very difficult. And in that moment, it's like it literally never crossed my mind that I could be infertile. And so she like looks at me, I'm like, and I went and got tested. And yeah, like when the results came back, it was like the hardest news I've ever received, especially because I wasn't even prepped for it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, and so yeah, once I found out that like I was sterile, um, yeah, then of course everything like the only option next, IVF, think about it, plan for it, uh, check with your jobs and see what kind of insurance they can do, what can they do, like if there's adjustments to insurances that you have to make in order for you to qualify for like discounts and it was like a boom, it was just the conversation starts rolling towards that.
yeah, like it went straight like that news and then straight to like the finance, the side of it. And I remember asking, like, wait, but is there anything we can do naturally to help improve our chances? And anything? She's like, not really. So we were just kind of left with no answers. Um, you were sent to a specialist though, the urologist.
Yeah, I was sent to a specialist and he straight up told me, he's like, there's not much we can do for male infertility. He's like, it's not really studied like that in depth. It's still like people are studying and looking into it. He actually told me, uh he's like, you know what? I've been having a lot of guys your age come in and finding out a lot of them are like infertile. And he's like, me and my colleagues, we've talked about it and we see like some sort of patterns pick up. He's like, some of it is like diet. He's like, I think we're under the suspicion that some of it's diet, but he's like, we don't really know. There's not a real like straight answer.
And that was here in the US, in California.
Yeah, yeah, it was in California. All of this was happening in California. And then he's like, but we can try different medications in order to like um help your sperm, help your hormones, but it's all like trial and error. Uh and so then yeah, he put me on medication, which my body reacted really, um, really violently, because it was hormone medication. And I mean, that just led to like a whole different side, uh, of like health issues for me. Um, yeah, my body was reacted really bad to hormone medication. And then after that, it was discovered that I have Graves' disease. So I have actually a problem with my thyroid. And now, luckily, after that, now I have like the right medication for my thyroid, which I take, um, which really helped my hormones out. So at least like the silver lining behind that was that like now there was like other issues that I had that, yes, I was able to discover. And so yeah, it really helped. But all of this is like snowballing and still kind of like guiding us towards looking to different things. Like, so now I have some health issues, Cindy has some health issues. And but this really just like pushes us into like looking for something.
Yeah, because at that point, I mean, we felt like we had exhausted all of our options, at least because that's what the specialists were telling us. These are your options available that we were like ethically comfortable with. You know, we weren't going to pursue artificial reproductive technology. Um, what I thought was weird though was I didn't feel like everything was normal with me. Like I had a lot of cycle issues that weren't being addressed, and I just thought it was strange that all my labs came back normal. You know, I had like extremely painful cycles, irregular cycles, things like that, but everything checked out. So, I mean, we didn't focus on me anymore at that point. So time went on, and doing some research, I had heard about something called NaProTechnology, and but there wasn't much out there about it. I think I found it on like some blog somewhere, like a Catholic blog somewhere. And I did some research. I was trying to understand what it was, but I didn't understand it. I just I knew that you had to track your cycles with something called the Creighton Method in order um to have access to this NAPRO technology. But still I didn't understand what any of it meant. Um, but I did reach out to a practitioner at that point. I was like, you know, do you guys help with male factor infertility? Because like I said, at that point we were told that was the only issue. And she explained to me like we can help optimize the couple's fertility um, if you want to start charting. But at that point, financially, it didn't make sense. And it just, I don't know, it just felt so out of reach. And there was also something just new. And so I didn't know, like, if I could trust it or not. Like, I was so unsure. I didn't know anybody who had also done it. So we just kind of like forgot about it, didn't look into it much anymore. Um, we just kind of went on with our life like we were advancing in our careers. I was continuing my education, um just, you know, moving forward, trying to like fill that void that we had. Like it was very sad like for us to this experience of infertility and feeling like we were filling it with this filling that void, but never really feeling like fulfilled. And we both felt the call to the mission life pretty early on in our marriage. And I think the infertility really solidified that. At least for me, I remember feeling like if we're called to be fruitful, but that's not happening in like the normal way, I guess, like we're not you know, having children, like how else can God use our marriage to be fruitful? And for me, just the clearest answer was mission, like to give our lives to serve as a married couple, just to serve the church somewhere else. And so we prayed about it, and we, you know, talked about it a lot, and finally the opportunity came for us to go somewhere, on mission, and it was at a very
Like specific time.
yeah, very specific time in
We
our
were
lives.
we were looking to buy a condo in that same year. We were looking to buy, I remember, a second car also.
Mhm. I was about to start nursing school. I was because I think I had completed all my pre-nursing, um, my prerequisites for a nursing program, and I was ready to start applying for like the official nursing programs. And at that point, I was working at a hospital in the emergency department, and having the exposure to like nurses and the medical field in general. And I've always been very passionate about health science and like the theory behind everything. Um, but witnessing like the nurses' lives and everything, it kind of put a little seed of doubt in me. Like, I don't know if this is really what I want to do. But I had already made it to a point where like I had to make a decision if this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life or not.
And then you started working at the hospital already too.
Yeah, the emergency department.
You had your foot in already.
So it was just like the perfect setup. Like I had exposure in the field, my foot in the door. And like I said, we were ready to make this big financial move of buying our first home.
We had put some roots down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And then that's when the invitation came to this encounter, to see if we were going to be sent somewhere in mission. And even then, like, I don't think we really believed it. We're like, oh, let's just go and see what happens, And
it was like during the pandemic, kind of right before
yeah.
early days.
So at that point, we're like, well, we thought we were going to be sent somewhere within the U.S. And even then, I was already making a plan. Like, okay, well, I'll just apply to a nursing school in whatever state they move us to, and we can just road trip, take our car, take all our things with us, and just transplant to another state. It's still buy a home, just in another state. Like it just felt like, okay, it's gonna just be like this lateral move to another state.
I felt like the chance to like, okay, let's see, can we really make it somewhere out on our own? And it was like more like a challenge, and just exciting to like kind of just move to a different state that you always grow up listening or hearing or seeing. But
Yeah.
but no.
But no, that's not what happened. To our surprise, at that point, they asked for, well, they said they needed a couple of families for
There
Romania.
was 2 petitions in the same convenience that we had. There was 2 petitions. There was a petition for families to go to Russia for mission, or Romania. And in these petitions, they were like, because of the languages that, you have to learn, they were like, like if there's a family willing to go, they asked like, could they volunteer, like families with young children, just so that they can learn the language. And because, if they're older, it's a lot harder. First of all, the culture shock is intense. But I was like, I think I wasn't even thinking that we were gonna be considered. I'm like, we don't have children. We're probably gonna just be at a local parish. That's even still what I was saying. I'm gonna be at a local parish with some priest who needs like probably, an assistant or somebody to
Administrative help.
yeah, to help his calendar, maybe do some maintenance around like a parish. That's what I was thinking. That's where my mind was. And but no, I mean, at the end of the day, there was like, they called our name if we were willing to go, and I remember I was like, I don't even know, like, Russia, I'm like, I don't want to go. I'm like, and and then Romania, I was like, I don't even know where Romania is, to be honest. And I'm like, I was in shock. And then I remember like I was just like, what am I doing? This is crazy.
Because just for people to put it into context, I mean, it's not that you speak Romanian or any other language. You speak Spanish and English.
Spanish and
And that's it.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I mean, we said yes, you know, we're like, let's do it. We talked about it. I was like, you know, obviously like at that time also within our marriage, like we were super in communion, you know, we're both like fully open to like an experience like this. And it's completely scary to move like all the way to the other side of the world. But I think, yeah, we're like, let's do it. Let's try it, you know?
And at that point, a lot of borders were still closed, and
Because this was 2020. This was 2020.
it was one
Okay.
early 2021, and only essential travel was allowed still, like internationally. So that I was a little sad about that because my initial thought was it's going to be really difficult for us to go. And what if, the longer it takes, maybe we lose that um, that yeah, or like in that desire to go. I was like, no, I want to go now. Like right now, I say yes now and let's go now.
Because
And I was more like, well, you say yes to God, and then, you know, he's like, all right, that's awesome. Like now you can go to um Jersey, let's just say, you know.
because the way it works, just for people to understand, is that you were at a retreat in Italy, right? And that's where you were invited.
But at that time, actually, we didn't go to Italy because it was closed.
Oh, okay. So it was
In Jersey, we were in Jersey.
It was with the US, and it was only families from the US, and we were going to be sent within the US.
okay. So Romania was not even on the map. Like it was not even, nobody was talking about Romania or going out of the US.
No.
So at that convivence, at that retreat, um, all the families that were there that had volunteered to go on mission, they were all thinking to stay within the US. So this came out of left field. Yeah, left field for you guys. Okay. And then so what happens normally is that after that retreat ends, everybody goes home and then they start working on the paperwork and everything else. So that's what you're mentioning, right? That's where you felt a little nervous.
Exactly. Then so after that, we get in contact with the responsible that was here at the time
In Romania.
in Romania. He sends us a city. The city's called Baia Mare. And even then, you're like thinking, wow, okay, it's like probably by the coast, you know, Mare. But no, it's nowhere near the coast.
Oh, no?
So,
How far are you from the nearest beach?
huh?
How far are you from the nearest beach?
Pretty far.
Like a 12, 13-hour drive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And here you were like 12 minutes.
Country.
Yeah, and here you were like 12 minutes away.
Mhm.
Yeah. Where Romania has like the Black Sea, on the east coast, and we're on the west, north.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we start talking to the responsible, and there's an official letter from the bishop that has requested families here in his diocese. So he sends us that document, and then we just start, preparing all of our documents, and ended up here.
Yeah. Yeah. And to our surprise, I mean, we, continued the process regardless of how the border situation was. We said, let's just have everything ready for whenever everything opens up. And eventually we bought, the plane tickets just a couple months after that retreat when we were sent to Romania. And
No, we saw that because it opened up.
mhm.
Romania opened up
Y-
for a
yes.
brief moment.
Yes. And no, the borders opened up that week that we were going to be flying.
Just for that one
So-
now?
Yeah, well, like that was when it officially
Uh,
opened
yeah.
that week. And so yeah, like the whole process actually went very, very smoothly to our surprise.
How long did it
Yeah.
last between the
It'd be-
retreat? How long did it last between the retreat and you guys landed in Romania?
So the retreat was in February and we landed in Romania in June.
Oh wow, that's very fast.
Yeah. So just a few months.
I think it's like we were renting, so it's not that big of a deal. Of things that we had, we just sold them or gave them to people that needed them. And yeah, I remember I put a month notice on my job. Um, and even at that time, my boss is like, "This is crazy," but um, you know, he's like, "Wow, like I hope everything goes well." And yeah, it's not that,
So,
it wasn't that like intense at work wise,
but for you, Cindy, you were thinking about changing careers or changing the to the medical field to something else, or did you want to stay in the medical field? Nursing.
I wanted to stay in the medical field, nursing. Like I knew I wanted to continue my education at one point. Um, so when this opportunity came up for us to go to Romania, like I said, it was in this very critical time in our lives about like, okay, we're about to make really big decisions about our future. It's like, are we stay home and pursue all of these things, or we leave it all and go to Romania where we have no idea, like we don't know anybody, we don't speak the language, we know nothing. And now I think back at it, I was like, how were we able to make that decision and say yes? To say no to everything that we knew and say yes to follow God. And I always say, like, the only explanation I have is that God seduced me. Like, He literally seduced me out of this life I was living to follow Him. Like, there's no other explanation because I don't know. I think anyone in their like right mind would have been like, no, like I'm gonna stay home and continue my career, my education, and everything.
I mean, you went to school, you worked hard for where you were working. It's not easy to pursue the career that you pursued. I mean, both of you guys had a very comfortable life here. I mean, I remember going. We both went to eat at their place. I think before. We married already?
Once here, yes.
I think we were in
Tustin.
in Tustin, yeah. Beautiful, beautiful steaks, like very nice life, you could say, right? In Orange County, one of the most prestigious corners of the US, and to
Yeah.
add all that up. But in that with the I mean, I want to bring us back to the beginning of the conversation. You're like the suffering that you were mentioning at the beginning, that with the backdrop of your inability to conceive, and you finding out that JP, that you were sterile, all of this, was that in the back of your mind as you were leaving, or that to take a back seat at that moment?
I think it was always still present now, and you're kind of like, okay, this is my reality. Like at that point you're like, whoa, I'm not gonna have children. And I think we had like really hard conversations after that too. Then I had a lot of health complications also. So after like year 3, 4, um, I had a lot of health issues that I was like recovering from. And at that time also, so we thought, okay, so I'm gonna recover. We're both working now, but like, what are we working for? And that was the thing that like it really just stayed in my mind. Like, okay, I can have my job, I can progress in my job, I can make a lot of money. But then in the back of my mind, like at night, I was always like, but like what for? You know? And like I want a different apartment. And it's like, and I love the apartment that we had, but it's okay, well now I just go through stages because um, sometimes I think like in my mind, I imagine like, well, children, kind of like there are these turns on like paths that you just plan. Um, like, I was seeing my life like in this straight line, like going upward. And it's like, well, a child might like change, like, I don't know, it might change something. And now it's just like, well, that's not an option. So it's just going to go like this. And I rent. And the next thing in my life is to buy. And then I buy something else. And then and then that's just how I saw my life. And
Also because like even the people around us, and I think with good intentions, kind of, oh, like, you guys are dinks. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's like dual income, no kids.
Oh, okay.
The This was like when we were in the process of looking for a home. It's like, oh, you guys are the perfect clients, dual income, no kids.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of like a real estate agent's dream.
Yeah.
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 And I remember like hearing that label was kind of like, oh, whoa, okay. I guess we have to do something with that label. Like,
Yeah.
we must to like prove that, like, yeah, look at us, this like dual income, no kids. Look at all the things we can accomplish because we don't have kids. You know, work, we can both advance in our careers. We can, buy property, and almost like the society we live in praises that more than maybe someone who has a family, has children. And I almost felt like I had to live up to that expectation. Like, if I'm not going to have children, I need to be doing something else that shows that I am, being fulfilled in some way.
That you're not throwing away that opportunity, right? Of
I should live the life that my friends who have children
yeah.
Wish they
could have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And how did you feel about
Always here.
how did you feel about that? Because I mean, also to put it in context, you guys grew up in the church, surrounded by families that have a lot of kids. So it you have a lot of friends that have a lot of children or that have children, and in a sense, you're like growing up and finding out about your situation. How did you feel in that context? I mean, like you said, like on the one side, oh yeah, financially it's great, but on the other hand, living the life of the church and living, in that context, how did that? It sounds like there might have been a conflict within you guys.
Yeah. So like like spiritually, um, it was a battle. It was a battle too, because you know the devil's like very smart, and the first thing he's like, these are all consequences, right? These are all this situation that I'm in is a consequence that God has condemned me, um, and he's giving this situation to me because I either all the sins that I would have committed in my youth, um, the sins that we committed, like even while we were dating, and it's just this whole thing is like, of course, this is what you deserve now, right? And it's like, but of course, like you go to church, and God speaks to you and tells you, you know what, this is not true. I love you, but it's a battle because you're feeling like one way, and like the reality hurts, especially because within like the church, we celebrate life, you know, celebrate life. And we're happy when my friends are pregnant and they're having children. That's amazing. I mean, we're surrounded. I come from a big family, you know. It's like we celebrate life, and then everything just kind of like evaporates at that time. Like, oh well, they're never like it's never gonna be celebrated for me, you know. And but nothing. I think we were very lucky at that time too, to be in the church also, because then that's when you kind of see like that you're walking like with God, It's like you're not really just like abandoned to the suffering either. He's like, because later on you think, well, everybody suffers, like people that have children suffer because of their children, and then there's people like us, we also suffer because we don't have children. And but we're not abandoned, you know?
Yeah.
And
For me, I think it's something, even in like recent years, the past couple of years, I've still been trying to um, change my mentality and kind of like deconstruct this mentality I grew up with, that like um, the misconception I had that like the ultimate level of womanhood is motherhood. Because I grew up in a culture, that celebrates life so much, which is amazing, and how, I've heard so many times, the just what motherhood is, how motherhood in the church, or women talking about, how this is how they're gaining heaven through giving their life through motherhood, and
Yeah.
how children are like the ultimate gift within marriage. And like all these things are said, in the right context and well, but I took all of that in and felt like, oh, so I must not be worthy of motherhood then. Like I had like language constantly that now, like I said, I've been working on like deconstructing that and not seeing motherhood as the ultimate womanhood. And but that was very, very difficult in the early years, just feeling like, oh, I'm not worthy to be a mother. I'm not worthy of the ultimate gift of children. So that was probably the hardest thing for me, especially because me too, like I didn't grow up in a very big family. I'm the youngest of three. And my siblings are much older than me. Like my brother is 18 years older than me, and my sister is 14 years older than me. Um, but I did grow up around a lot of big families, and I remember always desiring a big family myself. And so I always thought, well, when I grow up, I'm gonna get married, I'm gonna have a bunch of kids. Like that was my dream, And so when that dream and my reality did not overlap,
Mhm.
I don't know, yeah, I felt a lot of like just doubts and questioning God, like why? Like why not me? Why not us? Why do I have this such a strong desire for children and I'm not having them? While around me, maybe there are women who don't have such a strong desire for children and they're super fertile. Like why? Like it was just very, I had a lot of questions.
I think this is just to build like
This is how we showed up
Mhm.
to mission. Like,
this is how we ended up here. All of this, it's like, um, like we said, after 5 years of marriage, we moved to Romania, and it's like on the third year was when I found out I was sterile, and it's like, okay, you're 4, recovering 5, and it's like you're kind of still going through life, and at the same time, you go like 9 hours out of your day, you're at work, where you're able to kind of just unplug. Um, but yeah, it's like it was a battle.
Yeah.
Like it was a battle. And then there's like moments of like peace. There's moments of like clarity.
Mhm.
And then yeah, and all that is just like, but every time we talk about it, or every year that we talked about mission, and it's like kind of like, okay, well, there's some sort of um like lead to that, we definitely showed up to Romania with a lot of like still struggles and sufferings,
Which is very,
Yeah.
very refreshing to hear, because I think a misconception some people may have is that in order to serve God, you need to be perfect. You need to be in a perfect state or have everything figured out.
Totally enlightened.
Yes.
Like have your history in life totally enlightened
Hmm.
and have like this clear outlook, which in some way, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in some way, going in mission or that openness to go in mission, being in mission is not just a gift of yourself to the evangelization of the world and to Christ, but also
A gift to them.
it's a gift unto yourself. Even though I'm sure like no one goes in mission like, oh, I'm going to do that for myself, right? But in some way there's um like many opportunities or things that happen in mission that just give you life in the midst of the death that you would have, the sufferings you would have experienced here or there or anywhere, right?
Which is a great point, because if I remember correctly, this is where you meet somebody that introduces you to the Creighton Method, which is something that we have to talk about too, right? So you arrived to mission in 2021 with your struggles, with your problems, with with all of this, and then what happens? It's not that the problems disappear. It's not that all of a sudden you're fertile, and all of a sudden, or you're at peace not being fertile. There's the struggle continues. So then what happened?
So being out here, so we have a small community here. We're like 4 families now. And so then, we just start sharing our life, our experience. And I remember once a sister from my community, she was like encouraging us, because always there has been people like always encouraging us, like, don't worry, God will send children. And they recommend like do a novena to this saint, do a novena to that saint. And at that time, I was sharing with the brothers here. I was like, man, like that the sister had just like sent us a message and encouraged us to do a novena. And in like when we were meeting, I was like, I'm tired of novenas, you know? I'm like, I've done so many novenas. I'm like, I'm not gonna do another one, right? But I'm speaking out of frustration, you know? And the priest that's in our mission, he's just like listening to me. And I think it was probably one of the first times that I had even like spoken about like um
Infertility.
infertility or just my frustration with it. And I remember because the next day he calls me and he's like, JP, I really want to go out and have a beer with you. He's like, are like, can we do that? Can we meet? Like, yeah. And then, like, but he didn't tell me anything. He's like, I'll tell you why when we're there, you know? And I'm like, okay, let's go. We met for a beer, and he's like, he's like, I really want to make sure that this is okay with you. Because of course we're just getting to know each other. And he's like, I was listening to you talk the other day, and he's like, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but I really think that you should keep trying, you know. And he's like, there's a sister in my community in Italy. He's like, she has helped couples. He's like, I'm not exactly sure what she does, but I know that she's a doctor, and she has helped couples with infertility. He's like, only if it's okay with you, like, can I please speak to her about you guys? And then like maybe you can call her, talk to her, maybe she can help you. But he's like, only if that's okay with you, and like if you're open to it. And I told him, I was like, you know what? Yeah, let's do it. I'm like, yeah, at that moment I was like, you know what? Sometimes I can just talk like out of frustration, but I'm like, no, of course. Um, like, I'm not mad at you or anything. I'm like, just talk to her, tell her about her situation, and then we'll schedule like a meeting like via Zoom or something. And yeah, so that's how we met the doctor.
So, yeah, eventually we got in contact with her and we scheduled a video call. And at this point, we knew nothing about her. We just knew she was a doctor and she helped people with infertility at some point. Uh, so we have this video call with her, and she explains that she spoke English, she speaks English, and she explained that she was a gynecologist but specializing in NaProTechnology. And so right away I was like, "Oh, I've heard about this. I know, I know a little bit about what this is, and I've always been so intrigued by it, but I never understood it." And
She like practically cut out the doctor. She's like, I've heard of this.
I was like, "Wait, really? NaProTechnology?" And I just remember like that call was so refreshing because it felt like for the first time a doctor was actually listening to like every detail of our story and not leaving us with like, oh yeah, there's no hope, or like it's going to be really difficult for you guys to conceive. No, she was like, we never lose hope. She's like, because we believe in a God of miracles. So as long as like you have the organs necessary to conceive, there's always hope. And she's like, okay, we just so happened to have a trip planned like the month after we met with her for another retreat in Italy. So we managed to schedule an appointment to see her in person. And she ordered a bunch of different lab work for both of us, pretty extensive lab work. And then she told me, I want you to start tracking your cycles with an instructor of the Creighton model. And I was like, okay, I've heard of this too, but I have no idea what it is. And actually, now looking back, I remember back in California, someone had mentioned when I was talking about our infertility, a girl told me, have you tried natural family planning? And I just remember thinking, like, what are you talking about? Like, I had NFP is for people who don't want to get pregnant. Like, that was my misconception of NFP. I was like, how could it help us conceive? And that's told me something. No, like there's advances in technology going on, something called NaProTechnology. But I just remember thinking, like, they don't know what they're talking about. Looking back, it's like this girl knew exactly what she was talking about. Anyway, so the doctor told me, start tracking your cycles so I can get a better idea of what's going on with you. Because based on what you're telling me, you have some underlying issues that we can help you with. I was like, oh, thank you. Like, it felt nice to feel like there was something maybe we could be proactive about on my end too. So she put me in contact with an instructor of the Creighton Method. And this instructor, she's located in Spain. And so we would meet virtually. And yeah, so
She's officially also like the instructor from Spain. She's like the official one to like kind of then lay out what is like NaProTechnology.
Like, what is the Creighton Method and how is it linked with to NaProTechnology? And so like I said, we had all this extensive blood work done that was ordered by the NaProTechnology doctor. And based on those results and based on what she was seeing with my charts, she kind of prescribed us like a very tailored supplement plan and gave us some like diet and lifestyle changes to follow.
You say us because so JP also talked to her.
Yeah.
It was both of you.
Yeah, I talked to her also. And then so even here, I also still was getting every year I go for like blood work for my thyroid. And then there's like adjustments to my medication depending on like if my Graves' disease is like out of balance or like my hormones are out of balance. But so she took that into consideration, and she still always asked for like different analysis also for myself.
Because a misconception that people may have is that this is just for women, right? The Creighton Method is just for women. It's just for, but it's not. It's not the case. It's not true.
No, they focus on the couple, which I thought was amazing. And so yeah, she gave us some, pretty basic like diet and lifestyle adjustments for us to make. And all while doing this, I was, tracking my cycle. So I was very like in tune with my body at that point. And so just a couple months went by of tracking and following the doctor's recommendations. And like I said, so I was very in tune with my body at that, with my cycle at that point. I was, we realized that, okay, like I should have started a new cycle by now. Why haven't I started? Like, but it wasn't completely abnormal because, I had struggled with a little bit of irregularities in the past.
For example, just the stress of like moving to Romania also
Really affected my cycle.
really affected the cycle too.
And I just remember thinking, okay, well, I can't be pregnant. Like, there's no there's no way. And, like, I've never been pregnant. Like, I- should I take a pregnancy test though? Like, just to be sure? Like, I don't know. I almost felt like silly, like the thought of taking a pregnancy test at this point. At this point, we had been married for 6 years and have never had a positive pregnancy test. Um, but I thought, okay, like maybe I should check because the numbers aren't adding up with my with my cycle. And so yeah, we decided to take a pregnancy test. I remember being so nervous. Like I would always get nervous before taking a pregnancy test, but I was always like, it's gonna be negative anyways. But I don't know, something was so different this time. I think because that hope had been rekindled by this doctor. And but I think I was like afraid to hope.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, it's a crazy feeling. And so I took the pregnancy test. We were together, and I was like so scared to go look at it. We were both like, I don't know, I don't want to go see it. Like, come with me. I'm so scared.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, sure enough, we go look at the test, and it was like the darkest positive you could ever see. Like, there was no like faint line, like, oh, maybe this is positive. No, like
How we normally have been before, like, I think it's
maybe there's a line,
Yeah.
Oh, it was the control, line was lighter than like the positive line. Like it was dark, very, very dark. And I just remember like I think I like screamed and like I was just in shock. Like I couldn't believe it. We were like, what? And JP's like, what? What does that mean? What does that mean? Like, I'm pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
it means I'm pregnant.
Wow.
And are you sure? Like, did you do it right? I'm like, yeah, like there's not really a way to mess it up. So I took another one, like just to be safe.
to buy more.
Yeah, we're like, we need to buy more tests. We need to be sure. Like, there's just no way. Oh my gosh. I just remember we were both crying and laughing and like in complete and utter shock. Like,
Yeah.
we're like, how? How? Like, how? Like, it was just like the ultimate shock, the ultimate surprise.
How long had it been since you guys have been in treatment or talking to this doctor? And
Like
that's like,
3-4 months.
wow, that was very quick.
Yeah, and I was actually still like learning how to use the Creighton method, track my cycles correctly, because there's like a learning curve that goes with it. And it
Yeah, like, and we were taking like supplements. So a lot of it was like, okay, you chart and then you see where all your hormones are at, and it's like, okay, we need to now like balance them out. So it's like now you're taking like certain like vitamins, vitamin E, all these, and you have a list, and you're like, in the 3 months, you're still like, you're not gonna see like the benefits of that. So like,
right, right. That was like the impression we had. Like, oh, this takes time to work to for you to see those results. So that's why it was so shocking.
everybody was in shock.
Yeah.
Everybody was in shock. Like the doctor, the instructor.
The first phone call I made like the next day after we found out was to my NaPro doctor to like tell her like, so I got a positive pregnancy test and I don't know what to do. Like, and she was,
I knew it.
and she was so happy.
Never lose hope. I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, dude. It was.
And she was like, but okay, first things first, you need to go to the lab and get your hormones tested to make sure everything's going okay before you have any kind of ultrasound or anything. I need you to go get some blood work
And
done.
this is what I was telling Cindy when we were talking about this. It's like the thing with NaPro, it's like, it's not just the lead up to pregnancy, right? Because now there's like, okay, there's charting then to check during the health of the pregnancy also. So she's like, okay, now go and check this, so like blood work.
Yeah. And I feel like that's so different even from like conventional gynecologist. Like you call your gynecologist's office to tell them you're pregnant, and they'll be like, okay, we'll see you when you're after 8 weeks for your first appointment. There's always this like initial blood work right from the start. And so she sent me to go get some hormones tested, specifically my progesterone, because if we have low progesterone, a pregnancy will not develop well. And from the start, my progesterone was pretty low. So she had me start supplementing with progesterone. And when I finally was able to get in for my first ultrasound here in Romania, because I mean, I couldn't go see her in Italy, and just went to my local gynecologist here. Um, we, so at that point, I should have been like 8 or 9 weeks pregnant, or I was 8 or 9 weeks pregnant. But the baby was measuring very small. But we saw the baby and miraculously heard a heartbeat, even though baby was so small. I think baby was measuring like at 6 weeks. And yeah, even the gynecologist was like, "Oh, we have cardiac activity. We can hear the heartbeat." And I remember that was such a relief too. Like, okay, um, yes, things don't look great, but our baby is there and real and alive. Like, I just remember that being like the craziest thing to see, and just so beautiful. It helped calm my nerves at that point because I was already kind of I was a little bit stressed, and almost feeling like this is too good to be true,
Right.
you know. Um, but because of like the development not going so well, they increased my progesterone supplementation, and I was being very closely monitored. Like my NaPro doctor from afar was like, "Okay, now go get tested again. Get these hormones tested again. Have them do a repeat an ultrasound in another week." And so we did. And baby grew a little bit. So things were progressing, a very minimal amount, but they were progressing.
And the doctor you were seeing here, she was like, it's like, I don't know. She was already kind of like showing signs because, of course, even then we didn't speak the language that well.
Okay.
She was already like, her body language is like, but I don't like the way this is all looking. And she's like, I know it's like your first pregnancy, but she's like, something's not right.
Yeah. And had even said, like, because the baby had implanted a little bit too low inside my uterus. Uh, and she's like, the development isn't going well. The baby implanted a little too low. If baby continues to grow there, we can have some very serious complications. She's like, "Well, if you want, you can terminate now already to prevent those complications." And I just remember, like, how could you be telling me this right now, knowing that like how miraculous this pregnancy was? Like, I just remember feeling so like, I don't know,
Of
like
course.
I just, you know.
Right, because this sorry to interrupt, but this gynecologist also um
Had nothing to do with.
no, she knew everything that you guys had
Oh.
gone through as well. I mean, to some extent, even with the lens career. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I mean, I know she's like a doctor. She has to tell me what my options are, right? And I told her, no, like, let's just keep monitoring and see what happens. And
And also, like, you're in a different country, and here, I mean, now we understand the language a lot more, and they're not let me sit down with you and let me the hand on the knee. No, it's like here, it's like it is this, and it's very cutthroat, straightforward.
and so then we went back a couple weeks after that for another ultrasound, because like I said, I was being monitored very closely, and I wasn't experiencing any like miscarriage symptoms or anything like that. At that point, I was still supplementing with the progesterone
And you are on bed rest.
yeah, I was basically like on they call it pelvic rest, and just, taking it easy. And so we go back to this third ultrasound, and they couldn't find the baby anymore. It was quite strange, actually, like difficult. Now I understand it, but at that point I was like, "What do you mean? Like, we were here 2 weeks ago and we heard the heartbeat, we saw the baby." And I'm like, "I haven't miscarried, like I haven't bled." And she told me, unfortunately, sometimes when the baby is not developing well, it will just dissolve. Like the baby just dissolves. So all like the tissue is there, but it's just now dissolved in the gestational sac. Uh, so my body couldn't recognize that I wasn't pregnant anymore because of like I was supplementing with progesterone still at that point. So my body was thinking, okay, we're still sustaining life. But she told me, we have a couple of options. We can do the DNC to remove everything, or you can wait to see if once you stop supplementing with progesterone, your body will just naturally, do what it needs to do. And we decided to just wait. But I remember we went for a second opinion somewhere else. I was like, I don't know. I want to be 100% sure. Like, how could they not find the baby? Like, that was just like a very confusing and difficult thing for me because, like I said, this in the same way that hearing the heartbeat was like this confirmation of like my baby is alive and real. That last ultrasound left me feeling like, wait, did I make it all up in my head?
Right.
Like, not real? Like, was I never pregnant? Like, I know it created like so much doubt and confusion for me. And I don't know, it was so difficult. And like
And
I
also
said,
like because there's like everything inside you is like you don't want this to be true.
Yeah,
right.
of course.
Everything inside me was also like, of course this was too good to be true. You know? Oh, it was the biggest heartbreak, like the most difficult thing we've ever, and we couldn't believe it either.
Yeah.
Like I remember saying, like, "Are they sure though?
Right.
Like, should we go check? Should we go get a third opinion?" And I was like, "No, like we saw the ultrasound. Like, there's nothing in there." And um, oh gosh, that was like in the dead of winter. Our first was that our first winter or our second?
Second.
Our second winter here in Romania, like so far from like our family and
Yeah.
friends. I remember feeling so like so alone and so heartbroken and just like, oh, it was awful.
That was I think like that's to this day I think the hardest thing that we've experienced. I think
Yeah.
it was like I even just remembering is just like, dude, it was so hard. It was so hard. And and yeah, I mean just to even like I just remember like everything um you know this time around like we reflect a lot on like that time, and it's like even try really hard to like just forget
That
everything
happened.
that it happened, you know. Um, but we move on, you know. That it still ties back to the relationship that we build with God, and it's like, and there's times when we were like, okay, now this is like first you get hit with like infertility,
Yes.
you know, and that's a hard pill to swallow, and now the miscarriage happens, and you're like, this like it was so hard.
Yeah,
So
because like the pregnancy itself was like the ultimate experience of hope
Yes.
and followed by like the most extreme experience of heartbreak. So it was like two very extreme situations. And yeah, it was very difficult. And eventually, hopefully my body naturally miscarried. We didn't have to like intervene in any way medically or surgically, which I'm thankful for. And once I was ready, once I, felt ready to start talking to my instructor again and my NaPro doctor, she told me, take your time, don't rush into it. You just went through something very traumatic. If you need to take a break from like charting your cycles, go for it. But whenever you're ready, like, we're here for you. And because of like the hope I experienced from that pregnancy, it sparked something in me like, no, it is possible. Like can, we can get pregnant. And so it really did, regardless of how heartbreaking it was, it did give me a lot of hope. And
to start charting again and working with my practitioner.
And that comes with time, you know, because that's the thing. Here, like in mission, like we're learning to live like with the time and just process things too. You know, it's like and like I always tell people too. It's like it was hard, but then and the temptation is to like, well, you know, to damn everything else.
Yeah.
You know, but the truth was like we're here and all we have here is our small community and going to church, you know? It's like I was literally you're tempted to not want to because you're tempted to like be like God did this to me.
Yeah.
Why would I even look to him right now?
Yeah.
And the truth is that like in those moments that's the only like relief you could feel. And it's like and we had and there is that like again it's like to build like a strong relationship through that also where it's like where do I really put my refuge, you know? It's like do, do I give thanks to God like uh only when things are like amazing and uh you know things are going great and life is on this ultimate high? It's like, or do I really use the church in moments like this, you know, where it's like it's the only relief I can find, you know? And with people around who are constantly like who understand that it's not easy, like the priest on our mission would constantly come around and like check up on us, call us, and it's like I mean it took a year, I think a year for us to even talk about it a certain way, to even like just give the experience a little bit. It takes like a year to even talk about it.
Yeah.
And like even now there's like emotions involved just because you're remembering
Right.
things, but not once. I always tell people like not once did I feel like um abandoned by those who like God put around me at the same time. You know?
That's beautiful. I cannot even start to imagine what you guys went through. And I remember, because I remember you sharing your story with us at that moment. You know, it was
Sometime after.
yeah, it was some time after, and yeah, we were experiencing a little bit of your suffering. I mean, I think being on the other side, having kids, and thinking about that, you know, it's like, wow, it's heartbreaking.
Well, even our own like experience aside, just like having that, knowing your story, and then you guys sharing the great hope, and having that, also having that visceral joy, like knowing that, and then having that visceral heartbreak
Right.
that, you know, because it is an experience outside of my own, right? Like it's not, you know, but I was like, I have to write these things down because I just go on 500 different tangents. But like to see also that, like hearing this part of your story and hearing your experience when you guys first kind of were exploring, like, okay, we need to figure out what's happening with our fertility, like that huge difference between um the more medicalized, standard medicalized, the I mean, it's kind of cold. No, like meanwhile, I'm hearing a lot of like empathetic care based in hope. You know, that even when you guys have this pitfall, there it's faced with empathy and with space and just, you know, like a lot of respect, you know. And that's like very impressive that it's like empathy from start, it really travels with you together.
Has
So
And it is really, and it's encouraging, perhaps for somebody that may be going through something similar, that maybe it's um has been told by the mainstream medical field like there is no hope. You know, that's why I wanted to talk to you guys about this, and that's why I wanted you to share this with everybody, that that's not true. You know, that the mainstream, many times mainstream medical field takes a long time to catch up to other medical findings and science, really, many
Or
times.
has other motivation.
Or many times it has other motivations that, I mean, we can go into a rabbit hole there, um yeah, how would you compare the method that you were using, that helped you conceive, versus, yeah, the mainstream medical field? Yeah, how would you compare the two and the difference?
So I would say the difference is that the Creighton model together with NaProTechnology, they take more of a restorative approach to your health and fertility. Um, Meaning like they work cooperatively with the woman's cycle, with, naturally, and don't bypass your body's just natural state. Compared to maybe like artificial reproductive technology, which most fertility specialists, if not all of them, are trained in.
IVF?
You know,
Are you talking about
yeah, like
IVF?
IVF, or IUI, intrauterine insemination. Um, these methods like overstimulate the body with hormones and medications to force the body into a unnatural state. Because their goal is to get you pregnant, but not to address why you're not getting pregnant naturally. Sometimes not even to keep you pregnant.
What do you mean?
They're interested in getting you pregnant, but maybe they're not fully trained in how to maintain that pregnancy and the complications that may come.
Because there could be an issue of like why you're not getting pregnant, and then they can still create the pregnancy, but it's like, but they could possibly know, well, your uterus is not gonna sustain it, and yet they still push forward.
That's crazy to think that, that's happening.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
Yeah.
it's true, that's too much of a rabbit hole, but that's where it kind of does put into question, like, their motivations, because that's where I was impressed with, like, the empathy, because I'm like, wow, NaPro and Creighton and these methodologies really address your humanity.
No,
Um, While it seems like the mainstream medicalized perspective, with all good intentions,
Yeah.
right? Because they're really trying to
Help in their own way.
help and cater to couples who, are in this very difficult, but like JP was saying, they're not addressing the dumpster fire that is at the, if what I'm hearing is correct, is at the root of the issues at hand.
And
Yeah.
to that, maybe go ahead, JP. Sorry.
I mean, I would say because they take time. A lot of the issues, it's like later on you'll see, like, it takes time to like balance all your hormones. It takes times to maybe there's like even habits of diet. Maybe it's like things that like we are unaware that affect us like hormonally, and it takes time to correct those, like, out of your body.
Or we're not using
Yeah,
that anymore. Everything has to be.
That was going to be
Takes
one of
time.
my questions too. I wrote it down.
But just before we go there, because I do want to go in somewhat chronological order, and I think it's related to what we're just talking about. Who is Creighton, or like where does this come from? Because I think that has a lot to do with why it is so merciful and so different than the mainstream medical field.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So, the Creighton model system in of itself it's a method of observing and charting a woman's menstrual cycle. Okay. And it's used to identify biomarkers of a woman's fertility and hormone health. And the way that the Creighton model does this is with this standardized method of observations of cervical mucus. That is the biomarker that the Creighton model focuses on. And so this is a true natural family planning method because as much as it is used to help couples achieve pregnancy, it can also be used for couples who have, serious reasons to space out pregnancies. They can do this naturally. However, it's a lot more than that because it's a method of fertility appreciation, and it goes so much deeper than just the natural family planning side of it. Because it's the first system to fully integrate natural family planning with a woman's reproductive health care.
So it
Which
didn't exist as anything like that didn't exist before.
No, not in this what's the word? Like not as a whole as Creighton and NaProTechnology is. So the Creighton model is it began in the late 1960s, early 1970s by Dr. Thomas Hilgers. He's a gynecologist based at the Creighton University of Medicine in Omaha, Nebraska. So that's why it's called the Creighton Method, because that's where it started.
From a university, okay. I thought it was the doctor. No, but the doctor's name was, what was his name again?
Dr. Thomas Hilgers.
Mm-hmm.
So together with his colleagues, they developed this system, and it was inspired by Pope Paul VI encyclical letter of Humanae Vitae. So in this encyclical letter, Pope Paul VI is addressing, the current state of the world. This was in the late 1960s when the sexual revolution was exploding, and he appeals to men of science in this encyclical letter to make themselves fully proficient in these matters of of married life, of human sexuality, and assisting couples in these very difficult situations that now society is very contradictory about. And so reading this letter, this encyclical letter, Dr. Hilgers felt like, this is written for me. This is calling me out to do something. He's like already, and in his field, he was already recognizing the difficulties of couples going through infertility, or couples who, have the need for natural family planning. And he knew something had to be done to improve this. And this was the cherry on top. Like, the Pope is telling me to do this. Like, he felt conviction.
Was he working with families and couples with infertility at that time, or why did he feel so called to do this?
So yes, he was a gynecologist, and seeing situations like these of infertility and family planning. So he said when he read, and as a Catholic himself, he just felt called to do this work, to expand research. And so that's how, together with some of his colleagues, how the Creighton model began to be developed. And with the development of the Creighton model, eventually came the development of NaProTechnology, which stands for Natural Procreative Technology.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this is a newer women's health science, which, as I mentioned, works cooperatively with the woman's cycle to identify and treat underlying issues, to restore a woman's fertility to an optimal state. And one thing that I think sets NaProTechnology apart, one of the biggest things from just conventional gynecology, is that I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but right now, the most common diagnosis in gynecological care is unexplained infertility.
Yeah, you were.
That's the biggest diagnosis right now, unexplained infertility. That does not exist in NaProTechnology. They will tell you that is kind of like a lazy diagnosis, because there's infertility is not a disease. Infertility is a symptom.
Yeah.
And we need to find out what is causing that symptom. And so these in NaProTechnology, this is what the research has done. So a NaProTechnology doctor, or we call them NaProTechnology medical consultants, they are gynecologists, they are doctors who have gone through specialized training in NaProTechnology. And there's actually 3 components of NaProTechnology. It is medical, surgical, and perinatal. So there are surgeons trained in NaProTechnology, and gynecologists also that help throughout, pregnancy and maintaining pregnancy. So it's very diverse in that sense. But in order for NaProTechnology medical consultants to provide you with this care, they need to see your Creighton model charts, because they are especially trained to read and what's the word I'm looking for? Interpret your chart and see what's going on with your cycle based on your charting patterns. And so, because these charts are so important, in order to chart correctly, you work with a Creighton model fertility care practitioner, which is now what I'm doing. I am now a practitioner intern, and in order to be a Creighton model fertility care practitioner, you go through quite a rigorous education program, which no other natural method has this for their practitioners. This is a 13-month program of, like I said, rigorous education, assignments, and practice, like real life practice with clients. And I'm currently in that at the moment in that education program. And this is the only method that has such a high level of standardization. And what that means is that there's a universal language of the Creighton model and NaProTechnology. So there's the education program for the instructors is standardized, just as the observations and the charting itself is standardized as well. And this is how we have so much consistency across the board all over the world with anyone who practices this, and the NaProTechnology doctors as well. They are especially trained to read this standardization of the charts. All of this is done while upholding a sound ethical foundation, which I think is what attracted me the most. How this isn't just like something medical; it's something that's based on sound ethics. And another amazing thing is that this is not just for couples going through infertility. This is also for even single adolescents that are having difficulties with their cycles. Like we see things like irregular periods or very painful periods, situations like PCOS, cystic ovarian syndrome, among many other things. And together, the Creighton model and NaProTechnology is prepared to diagnose and treat these conditions.
If anything, that's where everything begins, right? I mean, wouldn't you say that it would be a good idea to learn, not just for the woman, but also for men, to learn about your body and how the health of your body, if you are thinking about getting married and procreating in the future, like, wouldn't that make sense to start early and start learning about all of this?
Yes, definitely. Because I remember I learned so much, even being like in pre-nursing and, being a woman. when I started working with my practitioner, with my Creighton model instructor, I learned so much that I never knew about my body, about my anatomy, about my physiology. And I just remember thinking, like, every woman should know all of this. Every man and woman should know about this. Like, why aren't we being taught this in schools? And yeah, it was just a great experience for me. And I wanted to be able to provide this for other women just because I know that there are so many women that are left in the dark when it comes to their reproductive health. And it's just, I think it's necessary more than ever now.
Something that
And it started. Oh, we saw it starting to grow like in Spain, in other places in Europe, because Europe is they change a lot of their laws to for the benefit of like their citizens to be healthier. Um, but I think in America, the only reason why it's not as like um exciting or as big, it's because it takes time.
Hmm.
It takes time.
Yeah.
like
Because we live in a culture of immediate gratification. So if something that takes time to, even just the benefit of knowing is not, I mean, this is my read on the culture aspect of it. It's like a little bit like this ignorance of like the time it takes to really understand something that is very profound. It's not our anatomy and our physiologies as a whole, but especially the reproductive aspect is like very complex. It's not something that even doctors, I mean, I remember watching or reading something that a doctor or nurse was saying, like, I can draw one lab and I can look at you, or I can examine you, and I'm not going to have a full picture. But yet, that is the model of the medical care, where you go to one visit and it's like, yeah, your levels look normal. I've heard that so many times from so many couples.
everything's
Looking for answers. Your levels are normal. Just don't worry. Just know.
even though you're feeling like crap, you're feeling bloated, you feel like something else, and it's not about trying to find something wrong every time, right? But it's just about, like you said, not being lazy, and it's continuing to dig in, and if something feels wrong, I mean, there may be something there. Maybe it's not something catastrophic yet. Maybe something small, but that's where it begins.
And to combat the point JP was making, that to combat that need for that immediate gratification, to really investigate and be in tune with your
body.
biology.
Yeah. Something that I wanted to talk about was the options that you guys were presented with at the very beginning, when you guys found out about your infertility, IVF, for example. Like, in your experience so far, what are the downsides of IVF versus going through the Creighton method? Why would you recommend somebody to give the Creighton method a chance before?
So I would say, and this is a complicated topic, but like I said, the goal of IVF is to get you pregnant, right? But they're not interested in getting you healthy before that, or they're not interested in like the pre-conception care. So, they are going to hyper stimulate you hormonally, and which a lot of women don't react very well to the hormonal hyperstimulation. And they create many embryos, multiple embryos, in a lab. Many of which do not end up being used, unfortunately. So there's a lot of casualties in the IVF process. Like from any given couple, they can create, I don't know, even 20 embryos, and maybe that couple decides to only have 2 children. So those 18 other embryos are your options are to either pay to keep them frozen for an undetermined amount of time, or they get destroyed. And as Christians, I mean, we believe that life begins at conception. Those are all, real lives that are just being, kept frozen or discarded. So there's a very big ethical issue there.
What would you tell somebody that says, well, but that's the only option that I'm given here?
I would say that it's not the only option. It's really not, because there are so many. They might present it to you as the fastest option, but it's not the only option. And I would say especially in NaProTechnology, we don't want you to just have any pregnancy. We want you to have a healthy pregnancy. And I think that's what really sets NaProTechnology apart, because we focus so much on the pre-conception health of the woman all the way through, the pregnancy.
And then just a little side note also, because even the way of speaking, my only option too.
Yeah.
Then we can even go into what I mean, if you want to look at it as a vocation also, within marriage, your only option. It's even as well, are you saying that your only option to get what you want? It goes it still ties in a little bit more to it's because then there is the for us, we use NaProTechnology, but it's and if we don't get pregnant again, well, it's we can still find peace in that maybe this is the life that God has planned for us, So even just talking like that, sometimes my only option is this, my only option is that, I understand people's sensitivities, of course, always. We have friends who also are struggling with infertility, and of course we don't always we don't immediately we have the solution for you, right? We don't automatically start pitching a sales pitch of NaPro, because if they, at the end of the day, I respect what people, what people want, what people do. I mean, we're all capable of, maybe this is the literally the only solution to them, for them. And but it does kind of still pick at that, you could still touch that point where it's my only option for me to have kids, because then there is adoption, and now less and less you hear about adoption because, well, it's IVF, right?
Right.
That's a great point, and just to quickly underline that, because ultimately, as believers, right? Obviously, I mean, somebody that may be watching this that is not Christian, is not Catholic, perhaps is in a different context, but as believers, we know that ultimately it's about doing God's will, right? And what the Creighton method that I am understanding so far is it allows for that, precisely that. Whereas any other method that is artificial, there's a very heavy human intervention there that
At the expense of
other human lives, because embryos, I mean, not just we believe, but it's scientifically, it's human lives,
Yeah.
are sacrificed for JP's point, to get what we want. It sounds harsh, right? But I think it's a good thing to meditate on, and to be honest with ourselves, and to really do that deep soul searching, that it's all of us are in need of questioning our motives at some point. And
Yeah.
I think it's very important that it comes from you, because you could say, oh, it's easy for you to say, you're not going through my suffering, right? But
But
you know,
you've been through the
you've been
whole
through that.
gambit
Yeah.
of this experience, and
Yeah.
that's a very strong point too. That it's like, yes, which is goes hand in hand with this immediate gratification, and this also this sense of like, when the priority is to get what you want and to strong arm, let's say, not say God's will, but also destiny, right? To strong arm destiny to bend in my favor, right? And those are two things that kind of go in hand, because hand in hand when you're living in this like a social immaturity, right? And it's not that it's outside. We all experience
Yeah.
that. I experience that where
Every
like,
day.
I want what I want, how I want it, when I want it. You know, it's just human. It's not remarkable, but it's true that it's like a social ill that's becoming like very widely accepted. But at the like, I'm sure that Cindy will go more into this, and I'm really interested to hear that. Also, aside from that ethical dilemma of lives being, well, not being given their due dignity, there's also repercussions biologically for the woman through IVF. From
Yeah,
what I
that-
understand.
And I'm not like fully informed on these like statistics about IVF. However, IVF pregnancies statistically show that they're higher risk as well. And it goes back to the fact that they bypass your natural biology. They bypass like what the actual root issue is as to why you're not getting pregnant or why you're not staying pregnant.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like I said, for women who have recurrent miscarriages and they are sent in the direction of IVF, like their problem was never getting pregnant. They are able to get pregnant, but they're not able to stay pregnant.
Right.
And so IVF isn't really going to be the solution to that.
Right.
You know, they're not addressing why you're not staying pregnant after the fact of conceiving.
Right.
But yes, like we were saying, like it's a very delicate issue because the desire for children is a good and holy thing.
Right.
Yes.
And as parents, I'm sure you guys know, like you would do anything for your children. And I think that comes also with the desire to be a parent. You feel like I would do anything to have children. But then that brings us to another harsh truth that children are a gift and not a right. I do not have the right to have children. It's a gift that God may give me, but it's not a right. And that's a very, very difficult reality to accept. But I think a lot of healing can come from accepting that as the truth, that God is the true author of life. Not, he gives and takes, and we are mere instruments in that process.
That is a tough pill to swallow. How do you live that?
Super tough, because I think like it was funny because the after we miscarried, there was an opportunity for Cindy to share her experience out here at a parish in public, and I was still struggling, and that's what I always that's something that's still within like NaPro. It's like still it's the couple, so I was still struggling a lot, and I remember she was like talking. I didn't even know exactly, because we have to write everything down in order for us to like then process the translation, and I wasn't even exactly sure what she was gonna say. But at the end, like I tell her, because I'm like I was just sitting there listening, and then like she says like, and ultimately like the mission of this child was to teach me that God was the author of life, and I was like, boom. I was like, that's right, and I was like, and for me, it's like it's true. Like this child, the mission of my child was like for me to see first that the miracle of that God can create life from nothing, you know, because we can say like all like how beautiful NaProTechnology is, which has been an amazing experience for us, you know. But ultimately, what I like is that at the end, we always say, God can do anything though, you know,
Yes.
and he can from like for me, from my experience, for example, from a man that is sterile, God can bring life. And that is amazing, you know, and that's something that I will always live with. And yet also this child came at a moment when I really needed hope, you know. I needed that moment, and God gifted me that, you know. He gave me hope through this child, and and ultimately to see that really God is the author of life. and and it's always like, and it's hard because it puts me in my place, you know. um for me it's like I'm not God, you know. I can't do all things that are impossible, you know. As much as you want to
Calculate.
calculate every little thing, and like, you know, because even IVF is, I think, shows that too. Like we can create everything, but who ultimately, like, you know, brings that to fruition, like I think is God, you know. And and there's just so many lessons, and it's so um it is hard to swallow, you know. But once you, like we were saying, like once you find peace with that, you're like, okay, then I just, you know, um I just have this willingness to like then be part of that creation, you know.
Yeah.
And also to answer your question, like how do we live with that reality that like, children are a gift and not a right? I think what really helped me, like I mentioned earlier in our conversation, there's a lot of things I've had to deconstruct about my mentality about what motherhood, what womanhood is. And I think what has helped me is to understand that we became a family the day we got married. That that was the day our family was born. That the lack of children doesn't make a difference in the fact that we are a family. That we are complete like this. We don't need children to complete our family. So that was one thing that really has helped me be at peace. Another thing has been just um, the fact that our baby is in heaven, and believing is a reminder of what my mission in life is. My mission is eternity, to get to heaven, to take my husband with me to heaven, to help him get to heaven too. And it reminds me of that reality. I think I get so caught up sometimes in the desire to have children here in this world, the desire to have a lot of things here in this world. But having a child in heaven reminds me that's where my anchor is. That's where I'm trying to get to. And it made my desire to get to heaven that much greater, to think that one day I will get to meet this son. We don't know if it was a boy or a girl, but we always we named him Isaac. We believe he was a boy. And so I, just the thought that one day we will be reunited in heaven makes my desire to work towards heaven that much greater.
That's beautiful.
So yeah, I see it, and just to always to remember, like, it's not that we don't have children. We do. We have one in heaven. And I know also we believe that even our ultimate role as parents too is to help our children get to heaven,
Right.
to teach them eternity. And God helped us fulfill that mission already
Yes.
with this child. So, and I say this calmly now and positively, but it's not always like this. I still have my moments where I still grieve that loss. Even now, it's been a little over 3 years since that loss. And I still have moments of grief from that experience. And I don't think that will ever really go away. But I think I'll learn to live with it, and to live with it well. And yeah.
What would you tell somebody that perhaps is on the fence of maybe a couple struggle with infertility and maybe not being part of any church, because we're talking about community, we're talking about being grown up in the church, but perhaps somebody else doesn't have that. Like, what would you tell a person or a couple going through that without having that support?
Yeah, that's tough, because it's been my faith that has gotten me through all of this. But
we have, for me, it's like, I would always encourage them to start though.
Right.
Like, let's say like there's a couple out there, they've been married, they're not getting pregnant. I think it depends on where they're at, but sometimes it's like, well, if I'm not diagnosed as infertile, then I'm not really infertile. It's just not my time, And so they put it off because it's like, you don't want to know, you don't want to, and there is a little bit of that. I have met couples that are like that too. It's like, I'm not gonna go because to get like labeled as infertile, and it's like, oof, like it's hard, I'd rather just be like, well, it just hasn't happened,
Yeah.
and like, but but people that start, like we have friends also who have started, and it wasn't from a they didn't take off from like faith-based, like, they were just like, oh, this is naturally the progression of my life. I should have had a child by now. I don't. Let me go see what happened, and they're looking into all of their options. Like IVF is on the table, anything is on the table. And but when they start, then there's like it's not easy decisions either. Like, even I think even for people who want to do IVF, it's not an easy decision. You have to first then like be like, come to the conclusion, okay, this is my only option. And it's like, then after that, you start the process, and it's like, first of all, like, there's like medication involved, there's conversation involved, like, and when you're with your spouse, it's kind of like, there's days that you're not always in communion, but yet you have to commit to this thing. And then there's like the financial side of it also. That always is like a stress. Always there's a stress. And then whether or not you're like religious, there's could be an extra level of stress too,
But I guess now thinking about it, something I would say to a couple navigating infertility without a faith-based background, I would say that there's a lot of healing that comes from getting answers, seeking answers,
That's what I was saying.
and to seek those answers, but in a way that's actually gonna give, how can I word this? Like a thorough investigation. You're not conceiving naturally, and not just be satisfied with unexplained infertility, this diagnosis, to not be okay with that. Recently, actually, NaProTechnology has been blowing up, like, on social media by non-religious people, as they are realizing this about the unexplained infertility diagnosis not actually being unexplained. People wanting more answers. So because in the same way that we're in a society of what were we saying, the instant gratification, we're also in a society that wants explanations and answers.
That's true.
I think this path of the Creighton model and NaProTechnology is exactly that.
Yes.
So
Women are tired also of just being given a band-aid solution to their difficult symptoms, like hormonal birth control pills to just mask, symptoms that they're living with. I think women are tired of just being not listened to completely.
Right.
So I would encourage a couple to seek root cause answers, and they can find that through the Creighton model and NaProTechnology.
Because also somebody had told us, like, even in Spain and all these other places, it's not the religious, or like it wasn't like somebody who was like within the church that made it popular. It's like, I think it was a celebrity who found this method and then just started talking about it. But because she was like, well, I'm not gonna put anything that's not natural into my body.
yeah,
And she's like, the lifestyle that I'm gonna live, and that's why I chose this. Because we hear about it all the time. Like, now you see on TV or on social media, well, it's now you need protein rich, you need to change your diet, read all the ingredients. But then there's this where it's like, well, infertility, it's all hormone medication. They give you a bunch of medication, and it's like some of it is necessary, but then yet not all of it is, or it's like, and how your body responds, it's not always like good or easy.
You could be doing more. From what I'm hearing, you could actually, if you have a pre-existing condition that you didn't get to the root of because of like lack of thorough investigation, like Cindy was saying, those medications could actually exacerbate and make your symptoms worse, or even add gas to the fire, so to say, right? Like, because like what Cindy was saying, it's true. Like, a lot of people are also realizing that the instant gratification is not gratifying at all, and they want answers, and they don't want to put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole anymore. Like, we want to find out what's really causing the issues. And I wanted to touch on another point, that because what I'm understanding too, because JP mentioned that kind of like, going, that it's not an easy decision to either also to agree upon IVF. There's a lot of strain there too. But to that point, that I was thinking, how have you guys experienced that, the charting? Because I'm sure that the charting is something you do in communion with each other. Like, JP has had to learn a ton of things, and that it must have had like some impact on your outlook or on the communion you have as a marriage. Like, in spite of the ups and the downs, like, it also must have been communion building for you guys too.
Yeah, I think that's one of the beautiful things about the Creighton model, is that it's a cooperative charting method, and it encourages communication and dialogue among the spouses. And yes, it's challenging, but it reinforces that shared responsibility marriage when it comes to your family. And it nurtures even like the virtue of self-control, of self-mastery. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about in the Creighton model, that they implement something called S.P.I.C.E. S.P.I.C.E stands for spiritual, physical, intellectual, communicative, and emotional. So S.P.I.C.E represents the dimensions of our human sexuality, like what makes us sexually whole as people. And not just having this genitocentric view of our human sexuality, but more of a cerebrocentric view of our sexuality. And we do this. We implement these conversations about marital bonding because there are certain skills that you need to have to use a natural method well. Talking about intimacy in a marriage, how it goes so much deeper than the genitals. You know, intimacy in a marriage is all those things. It is spiritual, it is intellectual, communicative, and emotional. And we help couples, you know, we encourage couples to have these conversations when using the Creighton model. And yeah, because for example, let's say a couple has, you know, serious reasons to space births, and using a natural method to avoid pregnancy for a time. There's periods of avoiding genital contact. And you know, there are, like I said, there are certain skills that you need to have to do this well. Know how to nurture intimacy in other ways in marriage. And this is applicable also to couples going through infertility as well. You know, seeing your intimacy as something so much deeper than just your means to get pregnant. And
I was gonna say, because that's very interesting what you're saying. I'm wondering how, from the guy's perspective, how that is lived, because there may be some guys watching this and they may think, oh yeah, that's boring, or like that's, oh, I cannot do that. You know, it's like maybe JP wants to pitch in on that. I don't know.
I always get tested because just the other day, even somebody else was asking me about it over the phone, and Cindy's just there like. But in my experience, it's been good for me. For example, like to really understand like Cindy's body as like a whole, and in the sense that like how because I'm trying to think how to say it, but like for example, like even within us, like our intimacy was affected. For example, with like infertility, you know, especially let's say like after Cindy finds out that she's not pregnant, you know, she has like no desire to like be intimate or like just even go down that path, because then there's like always there's a little voice of like, and for what, you know? And then there's that struggle between us, and but this like really just shows that there's another purpose, you know, that it's not just for having children, you know, but it's like, but it really it invites me to be attentive also, you know, and to understand like, well, Cindy explains to me like, well, there's like different how do you say it, I'm losing the word,
Like expressions perhaps,
because it's like the luteal,
the phases of
the
cycle.
phases of cycle, you know, the phases of cycle, and to understand them, you know, and how my wife reacts like during that time. And it's not because like it's like this like thing you can just read, you know, but it's of an understanding, you know, it's an understanding also. And it just, more than anything, it just makes everything a conversation, you know, everything is a conversation, because even at night, Cindy's charting, and I'm like, and she's like talking to me about her charts, her cycle, and I'm just there. And there is times when I'm like, I just want to go to sleep. I'm so tired. You know? And but then there's other times she's like, oh, I'm approaching my ovulation phase, you know, like, yeah. But it just becomes a conversation, you know. And I feel, and maybe because we're growing up too, whereas in like in our first years, it wasn't really a conversation, you know. It was more of a desire, more of just like you're in the mood or not in the mood, you know. And now it's like a lot healthier, where it's like talk about intimacy. We also talk about like just like the way we respond to each other. Like if I felt like a rejection from her, then I talk about it, you know. She's a lot more understanding to like it, like if I'm like reacting to something that even might have happened during the day, you know. Or if we bring up intimacy during the day, then and she says something, or just like, you know, then it's like there's a conversation. You know, it's they're just like, I'm just gonna move on. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
There's a
also
communication.
health wise, like even when there's like things like within like Cindy's chart that comes up, then it's like, oh, should we be concerned? You know, she starts talking and we start seeing things like on the chart, like maybe there's like some spotting or something happens in between, and we talk about it, like, do we need to go to the doctor? Like, what's going on? You know, what happened? And so it's not just like an isolated. She's not just isolated from our relationship, and like she's going through things that I maybe I don't know about. You know, I'm more like, okay, I can see what's going on, and yeah. So when I'm able to understand, like I'm able to see the chart, and like just based off of that, like we start being like, okay, something's not right. This doesn't look right. This doesn't look normal. You know, and then just being I don't know, I guess a lot more in tune, like is the way I would say, like a lot more in tune to like, so what changed, you know? It's like if you're stressed and it's like, is there something that we're not talking about, you know?
Sounds like you are very, very much involved into all of this, JP, which is very refreshing. I'm sure Cindy appreciates.
But it's also part of the like the way
Yeah.
the model works.
Yeah,
Right?
but I was
In the
thinking,
beginning,
yeah.
I want to be.
What
In the
is
beginning,
it?
I didn't want. I was sincere. Like when, like we did Zoom meetings with our NaPro
Yeah.
instructor, and she was always, "Where's JP?" I'm like, oh, and I'm like,
Like
you know, doing
frozen.
something else, and like he has to be in the meetings. He has to know about this. And I'm just like there, and I would just sit down on the couch, and I'm like, I'm listening, right? And and in the beginning, I thought it was like ridiculous. You know, this is my wife. He knows what's best for her. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and she'll tell me. You get me? But it's like, but no, like me being there, me just listening, that alone already just helps the both of us.
Yeah.
You know, for me to for it helped her for me to show some interest in the beginning, and I can see how that was like a good thing, you know, and also see like also these charts kind of show like even my selfishness, you know, like this process also it makes me reflect on like, well, I was just like, you let me know when you're ready, right? And it's kind of like that detachment was there, and you know that just really wasn't a healthy thing, and I was kind of normalizing it, you know,
Yeah.
or we normalized this kind of behavior, like, oh, she's in the mood or not in the mood, you know.
Because my follow-up question was going to be, Cindy, how did you make him be interested or being so involved? So the answer was have your doctor call him out and tell him to be on the Zoom meetings.
The instructor,
My Creighton instructor,
Your
he
instructor.
would make sure like, no, JP has to be in the meetings. And I would get to a point too, I'm like, but why? Like, it's my cycle. But it's like, no, like, in a marriage, you know, the woman is not meant to be the gatekeeper of her, you know, fertility. And it's a mutual responsibility. And, but I think what helped was I never stopped, like talking about it with him because, or there was a time when I did, right? Like when we were like really in the trenches, of infertility, shortly after the miscarriage and things like that. I kind of like, I started charting again, but wasn't really talking about it to him. And then, randomly, sometimes he would ask me like, oh, like, are you ovulating? I was like, oh yeah, I did. I ovulated last week, I think. It's like, oh, why didn't you say anything? Like, I would have initiated. We could have, you know, tried to conceive, and I'd be like, nah, like, what's the point? You know? And so I saw that become an issue. Like me keeping it to myself was also not having him involved. Because maybe it would have been a time where I didn't have hope, and he could have given me that hope and encouraged me. You know? A conversation about like, oh, why are you feeling sad about this right now? Let's talk about it. So once I recognized that, I started talking to him about it more. Like every night before we go to bed, you know, we look at my chart together, and or throughout the day, I'll be telling him about the symptoms that I've been experiencing, about my observations that I've been seeing. And I think this is what helped us to constantly talk about it. And like I said, this is one of the benefits of the Creighton model being a mutual system, a cooperative system, is that it encourages this dialogue and communication with each other. And yeah, I think that it has been the key, just to talk about it.
Yeah.
You wanted to ask a few questions that were very because something that I think, and again, I'm thinking about somebody watching this that may want to learn more and may want to like has very specific questions, and Amanda had written some of them down, and that's why I wanted her to be here. She was almost about to back out. It's like, oh, it's late. Maybe you don't want me there. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is like, if anything, you probably have a lot more to ask or to say than I do.
I'm like talking about symptoms. I'm like, I've got questions. No, I'm kidding. No, actually today was like a day of like, what is going on?
Because to that point, okay, so how do I say this?
This is not going to make the director's cut, right?
No, I mean, unless they don't want to, but I mean, because somebody might think, okay, this is for somebody that is struggling to get pregnant, right? But it's not the case. Like you were saying some things earlier.
Well, I was, after our first call, I was thinking, I was like, what about I have my 3 kids. Like my youngest is going to be a year old. I'm in my mid-30s and I'm starting to have like symptoms out of nowhere, right? Like how does Creighton and NaPro approach like the I don't know if I'm perimenopausal. I have some pending labs, but how does Creighton approach that? Because I'm sure that I even saw the other day a woman who, I don't know if she used Creighton, but I know that she did address the fact of like, oh, she's a Christian woman, she's open to life, and she was having perimenopausal symptoms and decided to address them like in a natural way. And then suddenly she became pregnant when she thought that she was already, like her body was already going towards the end of menopause. So, like how does Creighton, I'm sure that there are women also, I mean, because now it's trending, right? Like I need to get my hormones right. I need to somehow naturally navigate my body towards like a equilibrium, hormonal equilibrium, especially in the face of like all the exposures that we have, like chemical exposures through food and through name it, right? Like air pollution or whatever, right? Like a lot of people are looking towards this. Like how does Creighton, if you were to have a client that is like late 30s, early 40s, like towards the end of their natural reproductive age, like is there a space for that woman in Creighton too?
Yes, there is. So I'm so glad you asked that. So through charting, we are able to identify, biomarkers of hormonal dysfunction, and that is a lot of the things we see in like perimenopausal women. And together with the charts and a NaProTechnology medical consultant evaluating and interpreting your chart, you can work with a NaPro physician and work on some like timed and customized targeted hormone therapy. And I say timed and targeted because they use your charts, your cycle, not just like a cookie cutter method that any other doctor might use, but it's customized to you. Now, I am not the a NaProTechnology physician, so I don't know the ins and outs of all their treatment methods. I, as the instructor, I just prepare the charts well, make sure they are accurate, for the NaPro doctor to then go on and, pursue the treatment necessary. I am trained to identify those biomarkers that, are a cause for concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there is space for any woman in any part of her reproductive life.
Yeah.
Sorry, just to follow up really quick. What is a biomarker? Part of my interaction. Can you give us an example of what you mean?
Sure. Like I can give you an example of patterns that are a biomarker of low progesterone. For example, we see premenstrual syndrome, which is an actual medical condition. It's that can be treated, and that's when we see 4 or more days of premenstrual symptoms. This could be even just increased irritability, breast tenderness, cramping, spotting. All of these symptoms are biomarkers for low progesterone. Or even something we call tail end brown bleeding, which is 2 or more days of brown bleeding at the end of your menstrual cycle. This is also a biomarker of low progesterone.
So if somebody's experiencing those symptoms, you will send them to get blood work and stuff like that?
Yes, so I, identify these patterns and I inform the client, look, you are showing 3 or 4 biomarkers of hormonal dysfunction. Most likely a progesterone issue. So I recommend you go to the NaPro physician with your charts and show them this, and they can, get the treatment that you need to address these issues.
Interesting.
Yeah. Or among other things, maybe the mucus cycle that we focus so much on in the Creighton method. If we see abnormalities in that, it's also a sign of sometimes, cervical inflammation, or we witness the effect of stress on the cycle very clearly in clients. Very interesting. The patterns that we're able to identify and what they mean.
And some people, because I know some, through friends and people we encounter, I've heard some of these symptoms, even in women that are not even married. But because, you're not married, right? You're thinking, it's just normal. It becomes normal with time. Like, you're just like,
Even socially, too.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, PMS has been like, oh, she's PMSing. Like, oh, that's like the big joke, right? Like, oh, she's on a good one because she's about to get her period, right? Like, just kind of been totally normalized. Never would I would never have heard, or even the tail end brown bleeding, I said, right? I would have never, that is totally new to me. Like PMS, okay, that had been, it just become a joke, that this is what women lapse into when they're about to get their period. But that's totally, and that's pretty significant, right? Because that's a very clear way to get a hint at what your body is doing and then confirm it through lab work and which leads me to my next question too, of maybe before I get to that, what would an initial session with you look like? Like what does the whole not from beginning to end, right? Because obviously there optimally should be no end. Like you should continue a woman doing this process continues charting, right? But the intake, what I guess the how of charting is complex. So what is a broad stroke of what that looks like, what is a woman encouraged to do and look for, and because it takes practice also from what I understand.
Yes. So the first part of the process is an introductory session, and this is open to anyone who is interested. This is not like your commitment and you're starting this cycle. It's exactly that, a general introductory session explaining what the Creighton model is, what NaProTechnology is, and just understanding what it all entails. We also go over some, basic anatomy and physiology, just so everyone's like on the same page and understanding about reproductive health. And it is at this introductory session that then the couple or the single woman can decide whether she would like to continue learning this method. So if they decide and we make an appointment for our first follow-up, clients receive their materials to help them begin charting. And the first 4 follow-ups are scheduled 2 weeks apart. That's every week for the first 4 follow-ups. And this is because this is where like the real learning actually takes place. You're practicing, you're learning, working closely with the practitioner, and getting into that routine of the charting, because it requires, like I said, this standardized method of charting, which can be difficult in the beginning to get to establish a new routine. But once it's implemented as a new routine, it's like second nature. And then after that, I think we have about 4 more follow-ups that are spread out throughout the course of a year.
Okay.
And clients have, full access to me at all times. So if they have questions or are unsure about something that's showing up in their chart, we can always have an additional appointment, or, I can answer questions for them as they go. And yes, but charting is focused on the observation of cervical mucus. And that is the main symptom that we are observing in the Creighton model.
Right.
Can a couple or somebody that wants to work with you do it from the US?
Yes. So I do virtual sessions with these clients, and I also they receive a packet in the mail with all their charting materials that they need. Yes, this is an option.
It was interesting because actually we live in Romania. Like the doctor that we see is in Italy, and then the practitioner that work with us is in Spain. And it's all this. I found that very interesting because it doesn't matter, but
And that's very good that you mentioned that, because it's not that that somebody that you're working with a team. It's not that it's just like your opinion, even though like of course you're going through that very rigorous program, but there is a whole team behind this.
Yes, that's another thing I wanted to mention. Right now in this, it's called this supervised practicum that I'm currently in, meaning I completed my first education phase in October. And I have these 6 months of a supervised practicum. So yes, I am seeing clients, but I am being supervised by one of my professors who actually has like 30 years experience as a practitioner at director of the education program. And she overlooks all of my client charts and makes sure if there's anything that I'm missing that I'm not, identifying, she makes sure that it gets addressed. And she just makes sure I'm following all the standardizations of the model. And so really right now, clients it's not like you're working with a student, like you are, but you also have a professional of 30 years experience looking at your charts and interpreting them. So it's actually a very good time, I think, for clients to take on this opportunity.
And I would add that what I liked about this time for you is that yes, it's you're learning a lot, but it's all very, it sounds to me like it's very, you're discovering this and you're full of zeal. That's something that I noticed when
like you have fresh eyes,
right,
in the sense that it like really heightens your perception of like what you're studying in the charts.
Which is why we wanted to talk to you right now, because it's like you're discovering this whole new world that a lot of people don't even know that it exists. And it brings a lot of hope to a lot of couples and people that are suffering through infertility, or just like issues with their body that, like we were saying, that have become normal, but that they may be the sign of something deeper. And
Yeah, that's another thing I wanted to mention is that, we live in a society that treats our fertility like a disease, that needs to be medicated or controlled. And, we're not given adequate education to understand it.
yeah,
And when we don't understand something, we're more likely to do things that damage it, right? But when you do understand something, you're more likely to respect it and treat it with dignity.
yes.
And I think the beautiful work that the Creighton model system is doing right now with adolescents and like single women as well, teaching them to understand and have this appreciation for their fertility. And we, working with women of all ages has been great, but I've been really enjoying the work I'm doing right now with young adolescents, because it gives the opportunity to affirm their chastity and to nurture this appreciation for their fertility.
Yeah.
That I think is so necessary right now in the state of the world that we're living in. But yes, something I'm very passionate about this right now, like the education side of it. Like I said, when you understand something, you respect it. When you don't, you're afraid of it. Yeah. I think that's a big thing that in fertility, women are scared to get pregnant when they don't want to be pregnant, right? It's like you can get rid of that fear factor by simply understanding and being educated in your cycle and your health.
In your in your experience so far, how do you feel that women or people in general are damaging their fertility? Because you mentioned that you're seeing that. Like, can you give us a few examples of what you've been seeing?
Yeah, like even just how common the birth control pill is right now for reproductive health issues. Okay. Like a lot of teenage girls are being put on birth control because of, cycle problems, maybe really painful periods, or even acne. Like some girls are put on birth control to control their acne. Or to, if someone has irregular cycles, they'll tell them, okay, we'll put you on birth control and that'll give you a regular cycle. Right. Like it's inhibiting your actual cycle and creating a fake one.
How so? So how is that? Because okay, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Okay, let's say I'm a girl. I go and they tell me, yeah, just take this pill. I'll take it, But like, what happens? Like, what are the side effects that I'm not being told?
Okay, so the birth control pill is inhibiting ovulation, right? So it's putting your body in like a pregnancy state. Because when you're pregnant, you're not ovulating. So it's hormonally putting you in like a state of hormonal pregnancy. And ovulation is so vital for overall health. Ovulation is not just about the possibility of getting pregnant. The hormonal patterns in our body as a whole are influenced a lot by a healthy ovulation. A healthy ovulation because there's a such thing as sometimes infertile ovulations or suboptimal ovulation, and that causes a hormonal wave that affects literally every part of your body. There's research about estrogen affecting bone density. There's I can't think of everything off the top of my head right now. I wish I could, but
there's a lot of issues that come with that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, because your cycle is like another vital sign, the same way that our, blood pressure and heart rate and temperature are vital signs of overall health. This is also what the menstrual cycle is for women. It's another vital sign of overall health.
Right.
So, but obviously we're not giving personalized medical advice to anybody. But what can a woman do?
Well, maybe a good question would be to ask at this point would be like, what is a normal or a healthy cycle? Like, what does Creighton look at a chart and say, chef's kiss, she's got it. It's not Maybelline. She's, on track. Because then you can, because I assume that from the lack of that healthy cycle is where you could see the pathologies of like, and then where a woman would say, okay, like where she would resort to the medicines or.
Yeah, but I want to go there without forgetting that like, remember there's somebody that has been told, yeah, take the pill for whatever issue you're having. I mean, if I don't know better, I will do it, right? Most people trust their doctors blindly, and I'm not saying don't trust them, but what I'm hearing is that there are other alternatives. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, especially because you're right. Like the doctors want to help you. If you go in and say like I'm feeling horrible, I'm living in pain because of my cycles, they're gonna want to help you get rid of that pain to improve your quality of life. And so yes, you can give the woman the birth control pill, and yeah, maybe she will live pain free for a time, and that's enough for her. But when she decides that she's ready to have a family, to have children, she comes off this birth control pill. Those issues were never addressed. Like, why is she experiencing debilitating pain? What was the cause of that? We just put a Band-Aid on that symptom without actually looking for the cause and treating the cause.
So that's to Amanda's question. That's where the Creighton method. That's what you try to address. I'm imagining.
What will be made evident by charting. That's why I was kind of asking, like, okay, like walk me through an ideal, someone who is in ideal health, really, because what you're saying is true, that this is, and I've heard this before too, that for the woman, what your chart is showing you, or what your cycle is showing you, is your overall health.
Yes.
Right.
This is true. So there are a lot of things we look at on a full menstrual cycle. First of all, the bleeding pattern, right? And the menstrual flow, the menstrual bleed. Right. And we see anywhere from 3 to 7 days is considered a healthy bleed. However, what matters a lot in this bleed is the quantity. We want to see almost this crescendo. Is there a flow from light to high and then back to low again? We want to see the color of that bleed. If we're having any brown or black bleeding, even is a red flag, for lack of a better word. And then we want to look at the mucus phase, mucus cycle, which normally women experience some dry days after the menstrual bleed without any mucus. And a healthy mucus cycle is anywhere from like 5 to 8 days. And mucus begins as something that's maybe sticky and cloud color. But as estrogen rises in the body, this mucus turns into discharge that is clear, stretchy, and has a lubricative sensation to it. And it's what we call peak type mucus, which is the one, basically the most fertile type of mucus.
Which I've heard described as egg white, like an egg white.
Raw egg white consistency. And this type of mucus, normally we'd like to see it last for about 3 to 4 days. Okay. And after the mucus cycle ends, we'll notice a very dramatic change. So it went from something that's clear and stretchy or lubricative back to something that's maybe sticky and cloudy. Okay. And that's how we identify, the peak time of fertility. And then after this peak day, we want to see a pretty consistent post-peak phase, or like the second half of the cycle. And this will vary from woman to woman, but it should be, every woman should have a consistent post-peak phase, meaning anywhere from 13 days is like the average. That could be plus or minus 4 days for each woman. For the individual woman, cycle by cycle, that might vary, maybe 1 or 2 days, but it's still like a very consistent, let's say 13, 14, 15 days max.
Okay. Yeah.
Would be like any individual woman's variable post-peak phase. And then, so that would be like the ideal cycle. Like, let's say 5 days of a bleed with an obvious crescendo and decrescendo flow. A few dry days after that, the start a mucus cycle that starts off as, like I said, sticky, cloudy, progresses into clear, stretchy, lubricative. Then a dramatic change when it goes back to sticky, cloudy, and then dry days for the remainder of the cycle. Now that is, like you said, that like chef's kiss cycle. That's like, wow. And even better if it's like 28 days, right?
Right.
Right. Total. But yeah, we go over this a lot of this in the introductory session, where that first half of the cycle before ovulation is very variable for multiple reasons. But that post ovulation phase is what we want to see as consistent as possible.
And one thing I saw also was like when they explain that each woman is different also. So like once you find a healthy cycle for the specific woman, and then the pattern that follows that shows like, okay, this is healthy for you. Like this is you found like a really good cycle, and then the pattern that tracks that is like, this is what's good for you. Because I think they talk a lot in the program about like how there's like apps that track things, but it's like it's generalized, and then a lot of women will base their health off an app that it's like it's not really like
Tailored to you. It's
tailored to them.
It's just an algorithm. It's not actually monitoring actual symptoms, like the biomarkers that you're able to identify by just observing accurately and routinely.
So how do you achieve that perfect cycle without artificial means, without the pill, without all of that?
So this is where NaProTechnology comes into play. When we identify any abnormal patterns and have the clients see a NaProTechnology medical consultant, they can restore their cycle to that optimal healthy state. And that will vary on the woman, on the cycle, on the NaProTechnology approach that they take.
And that's where it's very catered to. It's
Yes,
very
like there's
specific.
not just one size fits all treatment to get your cycle to where it's supposed to be.
Because I remember even at the beginning of Cindy's charts, like she thought her cycle was normal more or less because she would get her period at the like almost like
Every month.
but at around the same time. The days were the same. But then when she started charting, she was like, there's the practitioner that was looking at, she's like, you're all over the place, and it's like there's nothing normal about this. And then now, for example, years of doing this, just the other day, like it happened, like something was not normal during the week. You had like like some spotting, like randomly. You're like, something's up. You go and get checked, and it's like, and they're like, oh yeah, there's like a polyp.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention this. When I started charting more regularly after our miscarriage, my practitioner identified some abnormal patterns in my charts. And when I discussed them with my NaPro doctor, she ordered very specific labs based on what she was seeing in my charts. She's like, some of these patterns are pointing me in the direction of, like, I think you might have a thyroid issue or an issue, like insulin resistance. And I was like, oh, okay. And she started asking me, do you have, do you experience such and such symptoms? And I was like, I do actually. It's like, okay, yeah, your chart is showing me that possibility as well. So let's go get these things tested. And sure enough, like I was diagnosed with an autoimmune thyroid condition, Hashimoto's, which is hypothyroidism. So I have low thyroid function. And so insulin resistance, which actually insulin resistance affects ovulation a lot, which is something I did not know. Like having too much insulin in the body will affect a healthy ovulation, because that's what was happening in some of my charts. We were seeing some dry cycles, like with no mucus at all, or not enough. Sometimes some mucus, but not the best quality or quantity.
Yeah.
Mid-cycle bleeding, an inconsistent post-peak phase. So I was talking about how we really want to see consistent days in the post-ovulation phase. Right. I was not having a consistent post-peak phase. So what identified these thyroid issues and the insulin resistance, and she gave me like very like low dose medications for these things, and also advised me to make certain dietary and lifestyle changes. Then maybe a few cycles, my chart was transformed. I was having like very healthy cycles as a whole. Like it completely transformed my cycle just by adjusting these hormonal imbalances. And and I think that's been the biggest takeaway for us in this process, that like, yes, we're still dealing with the difficulty of infertility, but we have discovered so much about my health along the way, and have been able to address those things. And I feel so much better, and I feel healthy.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize I felt so crappy before.
Right, which like could be an added stressor.
Now, I'm sorry?
Like it can be an added stressor when, because it just goes to show so much how how really uneducated we are about our cycles, like without that guidance. Because many couples, young women too, are left to throw punches in the dark, and they feel horrible, which is an added stressor of like, I feel horrible, but I get no answers, and I get my lab work done, and they somehow magically pull these numbers out that qualify me as normal. Because I've heard that so much recently. Because and I don't know if you would know the answer, because it's something that I haven't really heard, but like what qualifies normal as well. Like I always see in my blood work like that range of numbers, or that range of like what's in the healthy, but is it based on stats from like everybody who were all plunging into abnormal ranges, and now that's the new normal, and it's actually not healthy? Like I don't know, I'm going in the
that my NaPro doctor mentioned to me was that, so there's a difference between within normal range and then optimal range for fertility. So that's something that she mentioned to me. I don't know the answer to like what makes normal, but I do know there's a difference between normal and then optimal for fertility specifically.
Right. Do you notice in your practice or your experience so far an increase of infertility cases?
Or even just
PCOS, endometriosis, all of these issues that, I don't know, I'm not in the medical field, but I keep hearing it all the time from people that I know personally. Like, how is it in your experience? Do you see this increasing or an uptake in this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think infertility is so much more common than it used to be, or I don't know if it's just talked about a lot more now than it used to be, but definitely I see it a lot more, and recurrent miscarriages as well. Like it is very, very common. Unfortunately.
Any idea why? Like any educated guesses in your experience why is this happening?
I mean, my educated guess would be, I mean, there are a lot of environmental factors. Some of them are out of our control. Some of them are in our control, you know. And you know, the lifestyle that we live, we're in a very fast-paced society of this like chronic stress that a lot of people live in. And I've seen firsthand in my practice with the Creighton model, the effect of stress on the cycle. And so, of course, this stress is going to have effect on fertility and pregnancy outcomes as well. So that would be my educated guess. And like I said, there are a lot of things that are out of our control, but then there are the things that you can control. And I think that's important to focus on the things that you can adjust, that you can control. And that has been helpful for me in infertility, knowing that I'm doing everything I can within my means and within my ethical limits to support and help my body get to a restored optimal state. As we said earlier, the rest is up to God. And I think that another thing that has really helped with charting, to help turn the disappointment of each month of, you know, not being pregnant, it transforms that disappointment into an accomplishment of like, oh, my body did what it was supposed to do this month. I ovulated this month. I had a consistent a post-peak phase, and I got a new cycle when I was supposed to. I'm like, this means my hormones are where they are supposed to be, and that's a win. Like, I take that as a win. When otherwise the beginning of a cycle came with so much grief and disappointment, now I'm able to transform that into something positive of like, wow, like it's paying off. All the effort I'm putting in to take care of my body and learn more about it, it's showing results in the cycle. Like I have actual data of that.
Yes,
That's so cool.
very cool.
Yeah. I think we
covered actually all the points.
And I still have so many questions, but I also think we shouldn't do it too long. I hope that we can talk about this or continue the conversation later on. Maybe we can check in a few months. But I did wanted to give you the opportunity to share where people can contact you to please let us know if somebody wants to reach out and work with you. How can they do that?
So I don't have a website yet, but people can email me at everbloomfertility@gmail.com.
Okay.
I also have an Instagram page where I talk a lot about the Creighton model and just fertility in general. And the handle for that is everbloom.fertility.
Okay.
I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm still kind of working on my my LinkedIn profile when it comes to this, but yes, they can find me on LinkedIn at Cindy Ramirez.
And we'll leave all these links down below somewhere. And I think, well, first of all, thank you so much for sitting with us, for talking to us, to both of you.
For your passion, for your story.
Yes, I know it's a sensitive topic to talk about, but I know that it's important to talk about it.
And that God will be glorified through it.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And He is.
Yeah.
And so,
At first I had my reservations. I don't know about Juan and recording something, but I told Cindy, I was like, what I really do want is to offer hope to people more than anything else. In a time that maybe there is somebody out there who's just looking for some hope. I know that this came to me at a moment in my life where I really needed that.
Yeah.
You know, I really needed an answer to something, you know, and that the journey is not easy. definitely, even still, it's not easy, but there's a lot of peace now, you know, where before it was just more like suffering and pain. Now there's a lot more of like, there's suffering and but peace also in knowing that I'm doing like my best,
Yeah.
you know.
And based on that too, like something that has helped me a lot in this process is to understand that like you know, I only have one body. We all only have this one body that God has entrusted us with. And it's a way to honor God taking care of this one body that He gave you and understanding this one body that He gave you and being a good steward of that body that He gave you. You know, as Christians, we believe, you know, we are the temple of the Holy Spirit. And like we have this, I would say, responsibility to care for that temple. And there's many ways that I think women and couples can begin that process.
I like what you said about couples because earlier we were talking about the woman that goes and is suffering because of having issues, pain, and whatever, and she's given the pill, right, to mitigate that pain. And many times that person feels alone because she's confronted with a doctor, somebody that's supposed to know, that knows, that has perhaps I'm more than sure has great intentions, but that is giving her something that will have side effects that are going to be very detrimental to her health down the road. And confronting that by herself is so much more difficult than confronting it with a husband, with a partner, somebody that can help her, encourage her to look for other avenues, look for other. I mean, in our experience, maybe we want to talk a little bit about this, but when we were going to the doctor and she will tell me, like, please don't let me be pressured to take this pill or to do just what they're telling me, like, help me be strong in a sense,
No, advocate for me.
Advocate
so that
for
could
me.
be in this like shoulder to shoulder, like
Yes.
not this like meme. Oh, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
not like this. Because just like what Cindy was saying about this, you know, putting this ideal femininity as like and pinning it all on motherhood, I'm sure that also it also implicates masculinity, right? Like this whole suffering. And so also in our culture too, there's kind of like this degradation. And so I would always try to encourage Sissa to encourage me so that I didn't feel like I was just fighting the medical professionals who are medical professionals. Like I just like to pretend that I'm one. I'm not one. But to feel that I wasn't alone, you know.
Yeah. Like if something doesn't feel right, to speak up, right? Not to just blindly follow a trend or a recipe.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And yeah, I know, like we were saying, all these topics are sensitive and difficult to approach. But in my experience, like the difficult emotions of it all and hope can coexist. It's like I can still hope, even though I'm grieving, you know, the loss of a child or grieving this idea of the life I thought I would have at this point. The idea of what our family was supposed to look like at this point, according to my, you know, my conception, my preconception, and you know, it's a process. It's a healing process. It's you know, it's complex. That's why I said a lot of emotions and realities can coexist, and that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of our humanity. And again, I think I may be biased, but I think the Creighton model system knows exactly how to you know, also coexist amongst these complex emotions and realities that couples and women face.
I'm sure that people will research and find that out as well. Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah, and then what I was gonna say also is just to add on a little bit is just the communion that it really does create also uh within the marriage too. Um it's like a plus on top of like all the health benefits. Um it really just helps bring everything into communion, you know? And which in my experience is like it's difficult just naturally to always be in communion. So the last thing we would want is to have something come into our lives and then just like make that even more difficult, you know? So you add in that it's still actually like even nurtures communion, then like it's even more beneficial in that sense.
Absolutely.
Because like there is still like we focus a lot on and still a lot on like the woman's health, but you know this came from like even me being like diagnosed as sterile or like you know, but it still creates like this where we're working on something together, you know, and everything that we do or we change like it's still like for the sake of communion to be together.
And it's crazy how something that is so difficult that it causes so much pain can be so unifying, right? And I think many times, I know I speak for myself, many times I've despised and I've rejected the opportunities that God is giving me in my marriage to become more united to my wife. And many times it's through those sufferings, that I try to put them under the rug, or I pretend that they're not there, but they're so important.
Well, that's what I was also, that now it just came to the dome, that like something that I'm admiring too, kind of from afar, because I'm really learning about this right now, is that this model really does highlight one of the one of the things that marks a Christian marriage, and just a good marriage, like even religion aside, a good marriage is not just focusing on the procreative aspect, but on the unifying aspect. Instead of, because I'm hearing again this theme that it invites you to this holistic appreciation of each other, and to highlight that the unifying intimacy over the utilitarian intimacy. Because like our generation, we know this, and this is a whole other rabbit hole, is plagued by using each other. Like we've just been bombarded since we were children to just, and just in the human condition, right? To just use other people, use each other, right? And so this is like something huge. Like it really is restoring, yes, physically, physiologically, anatomically, restoring the woman's health, but also restoring the dignity of marriage, or that spousal love.
Yeah.
Very unique.
So many things that we can say. We'll probably cut the recording here. We can stay talking a little bit more after this, because I do have some other questions that we can talk about offline. But just for anybody listening, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, JP and Cindy.
Yes.
This was a great conversation. I hope that this helps other couples. And
Stay tuned for part 2.
yes.
God willing. Yeah. No, yeah.
There's so much to
many,
talk about.
so many things to talk about.